Hello everyone, welcome back. I'm Nick, part of the Fabella team, and today I want to talk about using nodes in your projects. And we're going to be covering the simple nodes, and these are the basic nodes that will appear in mostly all projects. As you can see, I have two windows open. I have the dashboard on the one hand, and on the other hand I have the Fabella documentation open. So the first thing I want to do, because I'm going to start this project from scratch, is create a project. I'm going to call it my first project. This is my first project. Okay. Remember, make sure you have interactive audio experience, not audiobook checked, and create. So whenever you start a new project, this will pop up and you can learn a little bit more about state management, HTTP request, and also scripting, but I just want a blank project. Now the very first thing you're going to see here, and I'll move this out, is a start node. This is the first node of your project, and being that we have a start and an end here, it's mandatory that these are in your projects and in these locations. So each project you create will have an official start and an official end point. So if we go over to the documentation, if you click on Start, project starts at this node. The start node marks the beginning of your project and is also a starting point of the editor flow. This node is created automatically for every project and cannot be removed or duplicated. So now let's move on to the Say node. Now the Say nodes can either be as complicated or as simple as you would like. And I'm going to go over and just kind of break this down for you on what you can do. So this is going to be what the system is going to say to the user, hello and welcome to Fabella Creator. And then it's going to break for a few seconds. And then here you can create games, quizzes, and interactive audiobooks or other types of interactive audio experiences. Now, there's some other drop downs here that you're going to have. One is resume, and this is spoken when the user continues the story after exiting. So if they exit halfway through your story, this is the thing that they will hear whenever they use your experience again. So think of this as previously on blah 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 blah. You know how certain shows do that whenever you they have a recap. Whenever you go back and you watch the next episode, well, this is sort of like your recap. The repeat, this is spoken when the platform cannot recognize the user or the user does not provide any input. So if you don't say anything, or if it can't recognize what you're saying, you will actually, or whatever is in here will be played for the user. And then down here under character is where you would select different characters. And we're not going to get too much into that because we've already covered that in a previous video. But as you can see, you can click on this and create a new character. But this is the character who will speak the text. And if you go over to the Say node documentation, you'll see that the Say node is used for converting text into audio using synthetic voices. And there are a couple things to remember in the Say node that we went over: the main text field, the resume text field, the repeat text field, and also the character dropdown. And this goes a little bit into playing audio clips. Like let's say you had pre-recorded MP3 audios. This is where in the documentation you'd find out how to implement that. And that has a lot to do with the inserting of tags. So FX, character reset, a break, so on and so forth. And you can also preview it to hear what it sounds like.
Hello and welcome to Fabella Creator.
And then as we scroll down, you'll see the break text. We use a markup language called SSML. And if you're familiar with SSML, you shouldn't have any issues operating with Fabella. And then last but not least, I want to say that you can also use variables in say nodes. If you enclose the variable in curly brackets, the node will read out the value of the variable instead of the variable name. So we can use this example. You have coin amount, coins in your bag. What do you want to do? So it would say, you have 26 coins in your bag. What do you want to do? And as you can see here on the text, the resume, and the repeat, the text and the repeat are pretty much similar. The resume is, welcome back. You have coin amount, coins in your bag. What do you want to do? So that sort of gives you an idea of what the say node is designed to do. Now we're going to go over to the here node, which is designed to listen for a user's input. And I'm going to actually put one of these in here. There it is. I will take this and put it right up there. Okay. So what I want this to do is add an utterance. So utterance number 1, and we can sort of kind of remake this. And we'll just do it with like left or right. Left. Add an utterance. Right. Right. And there you go. You see how you have left and right. And what I'll do is I'll put another say node in here just to give you the full effect. Okay. And then I'll have this just say, you picked left. You picked right. And now I'm not going in and doing the like the repeat or the resume. I'm not doing that here. I'm just using this as a example. And as you can see, this kind of lights up the flow if you're clicked on this say node. So the project would start. The narrator would say something. It would wait to hear a response, and then based on that response, it would give a reply, and then it would end the project. So, as we can see here, the here node allows the device to listen for user input, add utterances in the here node to add words that the device will listen for. Essentially, these are trigger words. They're listening for those words. The editor flow may be branched based on which of the words was heard by the device. If you put an empty variable as an utterance, the here node will listen for any input it doesn't recognize and route the flow through that branch. To add an utterance, write it down in the text field and either press enter or press the add button if multiple words should follow the same editor flow. Additional words can be added to a single utterance by simply adding more words in the same text field. And what this is meaning is, like, north and up would equal that would be equal. We'll have like an equal value and give off the same reaction. East and right would as well. South and down, and west and left. Word matching. Word matching is saved in the variable system input and can be useful when there are multiple words defined for one utterance and you would like to know a specified word was used. We're not going to get too much into that. Capturing raw input. We're not going to get too much into that either, but this would be useful if you were looking to see what the user had said. A matching behavior. So if two utterances hear the same node and they match each other, the engine will go with the first utterance that matches the user input. And I kind of wanted to zoom in on this just a little bit just to show you what's happening here. So the first utterance you have skip and jump, and then you have on the second utterance jump and skip. In this example, both jump and skip exists in both utterances. If the input is either jump or skip, the engine will choose the first utterance that has either words. So what that means is if they say skip, they're going to get the 0 utterance, the first choice. If they say jump, they're going to get the second one, even though skip is in the second choice and even though jump is in the first choice. And then down here's a little bit of a warning. Behavior when user input does not match any utterance. If the user input does not match any utterance in the here node, it will play the repeat text of the last say node that has one, and then it will go back to the utterances you currently are on. If no say node has any text in their repeat fields, then nothing will be said. So just keep that in mind as you move forward in creating your projects. So now let's move on to the end node. And in one of my first videos, I always said, hey, make sure you got that end node there. An end node is simply marking the end of your project, but it is mandatory. It needs to be in there. So let's read a little bit about the end node. Similar to the start node, the end node denotes the end of the editor flow and is also required for every project. However, unlike the start node, you could use multiple end nodes in the project since you will need to separate end nodes for every branching path. If you open the project after reaching an end node, you will start from the beginning of the project. Clear session determines if you save the variables or clear them at the end of the session. So this is interesting, right? So let's say over here, we wanted to incorporate another end node. We'd simply do this. We'd put it over here. And we would take this and branch it off to there. And that would be our end node. And that's sort of a simple example of how you would have two end nodes in a project. Clearing the session data. So what that means is that if you were keeping track of what paths the person took and you wanted to assign a value to that, by checking this box, clear session, it would essentially clear all the variables which you would be using to keep track of your project once the project has reached the end. I wouldn't do this because I think that unless you're creating some sort of game where you want the user to restart every single time, it's going to cause a lot of problems. And again, it says clear session determines if you want to save variables or clear them out at the end of each session. You know, maybe I want to keep track of how many times they picked left or picked right. If I click on clear session, I won't be able to do that. That information will be lost. So let's click on display. Now display is very interesting. It essentially allows you to display imagery whenever there is a device present that has a screen. I'm going to go ahead and insert a display node. Drag this over here. You know what? I'll put it on the other side of the here node just to make it look a little bit more cleaner. Okay. As you can see, I'm verifying my project as we go through it as well. So let me go ahead and click on this. So what we have here is we can do one of two things. We can pull an image from a URL that is saved somewhere, maybe on an S3 bucket or whatnot, and we can put that URL in there. If you're going to do that, you need to make sure that the privileges are set to public, or if you're using a Google Drive, it's set to anybody with a link can use this. You have to make sure that your security measures are in place. You can do that, or if you click on image, you can actually choose an image from your media library. You can also display a text. So we could say pick right, pick a direction, and then left or right. And it will display the title text at the top of the image, and it will also display a subtitle text that would be right below the title. And then as you move forward and down, or as you move down the menu, you can actually change the text color and also the background color. So let's say you didn't have an image. You know, you didn't want to have an image, but you really want to display a red screen, right? Maybe you're creating a horror experience and it's a blood red. Well, there you go. You'd be able to do that. And once I'm done with that, I'm going to click out of that. And now let's go over to the documentation. The display node allows you to add images with text to your project. Insert an image URL into the text field to add an image. You can do this by a URL, the title, or the subtitle. And that is it for the display node. Okay, next we're looking at the global node. The global node is essentially a here node that is always present, similar to a here node that you can add additional sockets that will branch out in the editor flow. If you have an utterance for a global node is heard, the flow will immediately be routed through that corresponding socket following that global node. There are three default utterances that comes with the global node: stop, restart, and repeat. You cannot remove these utterances, but there is a workaround if you don't want to use these utterances in your project. If you want to add a new utterance in your global node and give it the same name as any of the default utterances, it will get called instead of these default utterances. So these default global utterances that are present are stop, restart, and repeat. And stop will shut down the project that is currently running. Restart, this will allow the player to restart the experience from the start node. And repeat, this will read out the repeat text field of the last say node. If the last say node doesn't have any repeat text, it will go to the say node before it, and so on. And as you can see here in this example, they have a repeat, a stop, a restart, and a change character. And the way you would use this is you'd simply just insert it, So if I wanted to do a repeat, I would put it here and then link it there. If I wanted to do a start over or restart, I would put it there and then put the restart back here. And now let's see what happens if we use this.
Hello and welcome to Fabella Creator.
And down here you could see I have a repeat
interactive audio,
and a restart.
Or other
So if I click on
you picked left.
repeat, it says you pick left. If I click on restart, preview it again.
Repeat, you picked left. Hello and welcome to Fabella Creator.
The restart automatically takes you back to whatever node you have
quizzes,
connected.
Or other type of interactive audio.
As you can see, the restart takes you back to the whatever node you have connected to it, and the repeat takes you to whatever say node you have connected to it as well. Think of this global node as sort of a catch-all. If somebody says something, stop, restart, repeat. It's going to catch it and take it right here, and wherever these connections are, it's going to play that node. It's going to take them to that part in your project. So now let's talk a little bit about exit global. The exit global node is used for when exiting global nodes without intending to return where you left off. If you, for example, choose to restart the game while in the global node, the exit global node will be used instead of the return node. And give you a brief summary. It's used essentially for whenever you're exiting your project and there is no intention of returning where you left off. So just keep that in mind for whenever you're using the global or the exit global. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the return node. This node is used after a global node to return the flow back to the last say node before the global utterance was detected. The mode tab allows you to choose which part of the say node will be read out once you return. So essentially, a person leaves the skill, they come back into the skill. The return node will allow you to choose which what you want to be said, whether it is the resume or repeat. Okay, and that concludes this basic overview of the nodes that you would most commonly use in your projects. We've gone over the following simple nodes: start, say, here, end, display, global, exit global, and return. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you found it useful. If you have any questions, please reach out to us by submitting a report problem or giving us feedback in the bottom corner of your project. Thank you and have a great day.